10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Boom! Live. The Power Hour is right now from an undisclosed location in Kentucky in a Starbucks parking lot. I'm Lee Kraft, and over there is Mr. Dujane Bland, always in studio. Let's be nice. No, I like being on the road, but it is nice to be in studio, and good to have you on the show. And Dujane is going to be hitting the buttons tonight for all of us, so if something goes awry, I put it square on his shoulders.
It's me. All
Dujane, what a great weekend of drag racing. The NHRA Summit Racing Equipment Nationals at Summit Motorsports Park in Norwalk, Ohio was absolutely spectacular. We're certainly going to be chatting about that, but we've got two great guests lined up.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be fun. And yes, that was one heck of a drag race. It just keeps getting better.
It certainly does. It certainly does. We got Nikki Clark on first. She is the host of Women Take the Wheel podcast, and she has done a lot more in the world of drag racing as well. She was at Norwalk, and we certainly can get her opinion on the event, and then we'll have Justin Ashley briefly on as well right here on the Competition Plus Power Hour. Hit that like button, hit the share button, dive into the comment section just like Lonnie V has, saying Power Hour, and we are about to get well underway. I put it this way, Dujane, I'm pumped up, and we're pumped up because of Weldon High Performance and their great pumps. Nikki Clark, man, welcome to the Power Hour. Looking forward to having this chat with you since Bobby recommended getting you on the show. Look, give us the background. People might hear Nikki Clark and go, well, or who, or what, or why. So give us the background. You've been out there for a while. You've worked with some very influential people, and now you've got your own podcast as well. Give us the deets.
Well, it's kind of funny because I was talking to TJ Zizzo at pre-race. He didn't even realize my family connection to racing because I was explaining, I'm like, yeah, my parents are Clark Gaskets. You mean for selling Clark? Like the alcohol dragster? I'm like, yeah. He's like, you were that Clark? I'm like, yeah. So I grew up as a kid. My parents had a top alcohol dragster. My dad was the crew chief on the For Selling Clark dragster. And I really didn't start off in racing as a career. I was more of a fan and I worked in TV. But then in 2012, I had a friend who's like, hey, my buddy is looking for somebody who knows NHRA media. Hello. Yeah, me. So then I learned so much about the business. I worked at FSM, Ford Sports Marketing, and I learned so much about racing that I didn't know as a fan, and learned sales, B2B, activation, all that fun stuff. And then in 2016, 2017, I did my own PR, social media out at the track. And like I said, I had teams, in the day I've done Vandergriff. I worked Bob Vandergriff, the Duns, Real Pro Mod Association. In 2016, I was Summit, so the Jason Line and Greg Anderson, my Minnesota boys, and 17 with Clay Milliken. And then I got back into TV, and I still get out there once in a while, as you saw me in Norwalk, because I work with Joe Morrison, who I just adore. And but then at my TV station, they approached me. They're like, Nikki, we know you love racing. You have a passion. What do you think about doing a podcast? We're starting a podcast network. We'd love for you to do one. And at first I'm like, yeah, whatever. But then I'm like, you know what? I really want to do this, and I want to help mentor girls. I know, I'm not out there anymore. I'm too old to be running around with those kids out there. But so now I try to highlight women in all motorsports, not just drag racing. And I try to help girls who are interested in getting into motorsports find a way, hear inspirational stories, get tips on what they need to do, and just all the different personalities throughout all the motorsports, IndyCar, drag racing, NASCAR, dirt racing. So I try to, something for everyone, where some, if I can help some girl, that'd be awesome to get them into motorsports.
It's been a huge influx, I would say, of young women who are in the sport from junior dragster on up. How does that make you feel about the way things are going in drag racing? It's like it's not a like unnormal thing to see a woman or a young girl in drag racing now.
I absolutely love it. And the thing is, where you said junior drag racing and starting them young and learning that it's not just driving. Before the Indy 500, I had the chance. I do work with the Della Penna Foundation, and we brought like 30 girls out to the racetrack, and they were just amazed to see all these women who are working on crews, who are, the PR, who are, team owners, Beth Peretti, and they love seeing Catherine Lage. And so it just makes me feel so good. And like I said, I want to help them get in the right way. I always push internships. I push, working your butt off, going to school, having a mentor. So I just love seeing all those girls out there. And NHRA is just amazing, because I think NHRA is really the first and had the most. So I'm really happy about that.
Nikki, with your podcast, Women Take the Wheel, and it being a podcast that is motorsports wide, I'm curious, those that you have had from other motorsports that are ladies, when you introduce them to drag racing, or they get a glimpse of drag racing, what do they remark on it with the success and the influence that women have, in particular in the sport of drag racing, really unlike any other motorsport out there?
Well, it's kind of funny, because I got to spend some time with, Lynn St. James, who's a legend herself, and, telling me stories from the 70s, how she was like the only girl. And they're all impressed by NHRA. They realized that NHRA honestly led the way with getting women into motorsports. I mean, it wasn't just Shirley Muldowney, and then you got everybody behind the scenes. Like, even in the pits, they kind of looked. It's diversity all over. I mean, I even talked to the diversity officer at NHRA, and he's like, "So who's your NHRA diversity officer?" And I'm like, "We don't need one over there. We have every nationality, women, men, everything we have here." So they kind of looked to NHRA as leading the way.
Good question from Just Ask Mike. He says, any good sprint car racing ladies?
I've only talked to a couple of the round tracks. I'm not gonna lie. I went to a dirt track race, and I'm like terrified. I was, somebody brought me in the middle, and all these cars going around and all that, and I'm just like, yeah, I'd rather be next to a top fuel car. I love so in NHRA, I don't know if people know Anthony DeCiro, Flapper. He works with Krista Baldwin. His daughter Colette, man, she does the wing cars and everything like that, and she's been doing it since she was like 5 or 6, and she's the leading all the pack of all the boys. And so I see girls like her, and I know the future is good for women in the sprint car. But yeah, I learn more. I talked to Aubrey Gerbingding at PRI, and she does the cars, and she races next to guys like grown men. She's like 18-year-old girl, and what I loved about that is she's racing against guys, who are my adults, or could be her grandpa's age, and she's kicking their butt.
That's awesome to see. It really is. It was really cool to see Krista Baldwin in the ownership role. That had to be a moment for you that felt special. I know it was for me, because you don't see it often. And for her to be in that position, it was like, there's the next step.
I'm so proud of Krista. She, like I said, I've had her on before too. And, I've talked to her and Beth Peretti, and like the challenges you have with being a woman woman and owning the car and all the extra responsibility that takes on with owning a car. And especially for Krista being such a young age too, taking this on, I'm just so proud of her that she's calling the shots, and she had Spencer driving it this last weekend, and she's, it takes a big person to do that, to watch somebody else drive your car. And so proud of her. And she, it helped, he was helping her at the same time where she's trying to figure out what they could do to the car to make it better. So yeah. And she's got an event coming up too here in town in Hoosier Trainer to help her reach her fundraising and her sponsorship goal for the U.S. National. So I'm really proud. She gets it done. She hustles, gets it done.
Nikki, with your Women Take the Wheel podcast, of the lady drag racers that you've had on your podcast, what has been the most interesting bit of information that any one of them has dropped? You look back on having a lady on, and on that podcast, you're like, would not have thought that. Oh, that's different. Thank you for that information. What would that have been, and who would have dropped such?
I don't know. I mean, because I'm more of like learning, and I try not to embarrass her or bringing stuff, but like, I got to tell you, talking to Ida Zetterstrom lately, just all that she's done, I had no idea. Yeah. I mean, she's the Swedish driver of the year, voted on by people, the whole, country. She's up against all these other professional drivers. And so that just like boggles my mind. I mean, and then talking to some of the women who was like, back in the day that, they weren't even allowed in the pit side to go even on the side of the pits, to pit row in IndyCar. They weren't even allowed there back in the 70s. So it's just stuff like that. That's more of a wow thing. But the interesting thing is just, I'm always interested in how hard the women have worked to get where they're at. I take that back. Angie Smith. I do like this. Angie Smith, she got her bike, was racing it. She's like, but I didn't tell my dad. I didn't tell my parents till I was racing for 6 months because I didn't want them to worry. And then she's like, yeah, by the way, guess what? So that was fun and interesting. I did not know.
Yeah, that seems like that would be a Angie Smith thing. Yeah. Out of the ladies this year, in all of the categories, which one interests you the most? I know for me, it is Sienna Wildgust.
Yeah, Sienna, she's good, and she's just made the move to get mentored by Erica, who's another woman. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I cannot wait to watch Ida drag race. I cannot wait for her to actually compete. Me and her see we have the same opinions about, how to get into the sport and, what it takes to work to get into it. And she's all about mentoring women too, and getting girls and being a good role model. So I'm very excited. I really want to go to Brainerd and watch her debut race. So, because I'm like, well, I have been there for 3 people who've got their first top field wins, and of course, because so I always love Leah too. Leah was actually my first podcast guest. And so, yeah, I'm always cheering for Leah inside and outside the car.
Yeah.
Nikki, it's going to be hard to narrow, but I'm going to challenge you to narrow it down to one. We have a lot of great ladies, and I'm going to exclude someone like Erica because she has done so many phenomenal things within the sport, and yes, will continue to do so. But out of the Ida Zetterstroms, the Julie Natises, the Jasmine Salinas', the Sienna Wildgusts, what young lady do you think is going to rise to the occasion and rise to the top and be a renowned name and female figure in the world, not just motorsports?
I don't know. I know you said don't say her, but like Ida and Leah. I mean, look at Leah. She's already kind of expanded, especially, with Dodge. Both Ida and Leah with Dodge, you're seeing them outside. Leah's even been in a Dodge commercial. That's hard to say in drag racing. I just really think it's going to be those people who are going from different motorsports, I think, are going to be the ones. I'd like to see how we've had a Tony, and Kyle Larson, who've done all the different drag racing. We've really never seen a woman. I'd like to see a woman do different series. I mean, Danica's done IndyCar and NASCAR, but to me, that's, not quite the same because, I want to see a woman like Tony Stewart, a version of Tony, who gets all the different motorsports and can share the knowledge with girls. That's what I want to see, because I can't name one person.
Yeah, that would be that, because it hasn't happened yet. So
yeah, and I'd love to see that. I mean, I was so impressed with Kyle Larson, what he did with the Indy 500 this year, and he can drive, him like Tony Stewart and all them, they can drive anything. So I'd like to see a woman kind of break that barrier and do both of those.
Well, with this season, I'd like to get your opinion on this season. It's been crazy. We've had races that temperatures and track temperatures have changed throughout the weekend, sometimes throughout the day. Which race has been the most, I say, special, or like is number one so far through this like 3/4 of the regular season?
It's hard to say because they've all been special. The thing I'm loving this year is the variety in winners. I don't think, I mean, aside from Pro Stock Motorcycle, and I don't know. I mean, and they've all been so drama filled. I love that they've added the Too Fast, Too Tasty. Like I said, Norwalk, I'm a little partial to because I was there and that was a little drama filled. And I always love Gainesville. When you talk about Bracket Bonanza, the first race of the year, first top field race, I got a perfect bracket. I told Elin, I'm like, it's just gotta go downhill from there. And I was right. So, but I always love, Gainesville too. It's the first, it's got the shootout. It's got the call out. I'm like, that's one of my favorite races. I think a lot goes on at that race. That's kind of one of my favorites.
Well, I'll ask you this, because me and Lee have had this talk. Do you feel like they should kind of mix it up a bit and not be so rigid, like kind of change up the schedule and do things a little differently instead of doing it the same way all the time?
Oh, you're talking about like the 2-day weekend. I'm all about like what they did in Virginia. I mean, granted, I was so worried about everybody at the heat, and I heard all the stories last week. And when I was complaining about the heat in Norwalk, they're like, you weren't in Virginia.
Yeah.
But I do like doing the 3 qualifiers in a day for people, like me, who are huge race fans, but we don't have all the vacation days. Thank you, Joe. I love you, Joe. I liked having that 3 days. So like somebody like me could have gone out on a Friday night and come back on a Sunday. That's just a little bit selfish of me. And, these crew guys have families. And so, I'm sure they don't mind. And I mean, I'm no offense, but I'm sure, I'd love Denver, but, having only 2 weeks on the Western swing now is probably great for them too, because they'd be gone for almost a month. And be here in Brownsburg and Avon, I know a lot of the wives. And so I think they'd be happy with the condensed races too. So, yeah, I try to create, like, we have the wives here, we have race watch parties. So when they're all out racing, we all get together and try to do something to each other. And I always try to I tell my friends, I'm like, hey, because I'm very independent. You know me. I'm very independent, strong. I'm like, you need anything while your husband's gone, I'll come help you. I'll mow the grass. I'll do whatever, babysit. You just need a me day, just let me know. So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
I agree. I think the 2-day event type of scenario for the tracks that don't have, if you will, the tenure of long-standing events and almost a perfect attendance each and every day over 2 days, the 2-day event certainly needs to be looked at. I have even got to the point where if I'm going to cover a class, I'll show up and cover Saturday, Sunday. It's just more economical. It makes more sense. And it is better on the pocketbook, especially somewhere like Norwalk that is so close to a resort area in Sandusky. It's not price gouging. It's that there's so much demand in that area. When the race comes to town, it just makes it that much worse when attempting to find motels. So it's a matter of economics. It just makes sense at certain tracks for sure. Well, Nikki, before we let you go, make sure that we all understand where we can follow you, where we can listen to Women Take the Wheel podcast.
Anywhere you listen to podcasts, and I know I shouldn't say that, but if you do Apple, Pandora, anything, I am with Wish TV, because that's my other life. When I'm not at the racetrack, I'm the programming and promotions director for Wish TV. And so I'm the one who has to make the call when sports run over. I'm the one who has to make the call. Do we stay with it? Do we go? I have to make that horrible decision. But yeah, so you can also go to wishtv.com podcasts, and Women Take the Wheel is right on that bar. Even on the app, Wish TV app, they have podcasts, and my Women Take the Wheel right there. But you can find me anywhere that you get podcasts, literally. Women Take the Wheel. It's part of the All Indiana Podcast Network.
Awesome.
Yes, for sure. Nikki, do you happen to have the next guest lined up? Do you know who it's going to be?
I do actually. At the end of this month, I'm going to have, or I think next week, yeah. I talked to the VP of McLaren, Arrow McLaren, VP of Communications awesome. And Marketing, because I think that's going to be a great one because they have their hands in everything. Yeah. Different series and different that, and just being a woman in that. And of course, they've had a busy day today, as you know, with the whole Rossi Lindegaard thing. So I'm really excited to talk to her. And I've already discussed with Sienna Wildguss bringing her on the show too. And so I try to get people in the studio with an indie, but I can do phone, I can do whatever. It's just more fun. I like interacting with them in the studio. So
indeed.
And I'd love to come back with you guys sometime too and actually talk racing and qualifying and
of course. You're on the list.
Very cool.
Not Bland show. That's for sure.
Very cool. Well, Nikki, look, thank you for your time, and keep hanging on to the wheel on that podcast and directing in the right direction.
I will. I'm like you. I'm a one-woman show, so I got to do it all myself. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nikki.
Bye.
All right, folks, make sure to catch Women Take the Wheel podcast there with Nikki Clark. A lot of insight in drag racing and beyond in the world of motorsports with the ladies. We got in the green room, I believe, Justin Ashley. We'll take a break real quick and get the quickest lever in the sport burning nitro on in just a few moments after this word from, well, not Competition Plus, but it sounds a whole lot like Competition Plus. That's Competition Products. If you want to be in the competition, you need the products that Competition Products provides.
Competition Products, your source for hardcore engine parts for street, strip, and oval track. Our free catalog is packed with hundreds of product lines from the best-known manufacturers in the performance industry. Lowest prices guaranteed. Free shipping and handling on all orders over $149 in the continental U.S.
Need expert advice? Our knowledgeable staff is just a phone call away.
Competition Products, race parts sold by racers since 1970.
Justin Ashley, let me tell you, when you lead with Competition Products, when you're hosting the Competition Plus Power Hour, it's hard to keep them both straight of when you should and should not say those words. But something you definitely keep straight, as Drag Racing Mayhem chimes in with, is you have an average 0.42 light, second best Josh Hart at a 0.58. Killing it again, man.
I appreciate it, man. And thank you guys for having me on. That's definitely a tongue twister. So I'm glad I'm in this seat and not in yours, but I think you guys did a really good job with that one. Yeah, I mean, look, it's just about doing everything you can to help our team win, right? There's so many different factors that go into reaction times. It's the statistics, and you see it, and numbers don't lie. But at the same time, a lot is about A, how the car reacts, and then B, as a driver, where you stage as well. So when you go down the list and look at the different numbers, some other numbers that you might want to look at in addition to the actual reaction time is the 60 foots and where these guys are staging, whether they're staging shallow, whether they're staging deep. So I think all of that added together, really factors into the total package and how well you do as a driver and how you help your team win.
Talk about numbers. You know I'm a numbers guy, so I'm going to hit you with some numbers. So last year, at this time, at this point of the season, you were 17-4 round win-loss record. You had 4 wins on the season. This year it's like 14-6. You were 2-2 in the second half of this season. You got 2 wins, 2 runner-ups. To me, looking at everything, I think you're in a great position. You're not peaking too early. You guys are kind of right where you need to be. We're getting real close to this countdown. It's almost time for that cat's eye gold dragster to strike in playoff time.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you. I actually completely agree with you. We're in an interesting position now in the season because there are only, I believe, 4 more races before we actually start the playoffs or start the countdown. So you really want to start figuring out your combination and turning on win lights now and stacking those round wins. Because look, we go into every race with the mentality of winning that race, but also taking it one round at a time and winning each and every lap down the racetrack. But at the same time, we are forward thinking. We are trying to be proactive and plan accordingly for the countdown, because this countdown is going to be here before we know it. And at the end of the day, that is absolutely the most important thing. So everything we're doing now is with the intent and the purpose of winning in the present moment, but at the same time, putting ourselves in a position to win the championship down the stretch, which is not going to be an easy thing to do. So we're really happy with the position that we're in. We're learning a lot each and every race. And as they always do, Mike Green and Tommy DeLago do an outstanding job, not only working with me, but working with our entire Skag Power Equipment, Phillips Toyota team, and just looking at all the data and information and constantly being creative and constantly finding ways to improve. Because, guys, this sport is so difficult. It'll humble you so quickly. There's so many ups and downs, and the top fuel field at this very moment, I think is safe to say, is as deep and as talented as it's ever been in NHRA history.
It certainly is. The qualifying this past weekend for the NHRA Summit Racing Equipment Nationals and Round 1 are perfect testaments to how intense the competition is up and down the ladder and through that paddock at an NHRA national event. Justin, I have to echo Andrew's comment. I was just thinking about it. The Skag team over the off-season expanded, shifted, changed, a lot of movement. Has it affected your core team in a positive or negative way at all? What have been the pros and the cons? What are you all still working on? What has been the blessings in it?
Yeah, I think blessings is probably a good word to use. And I don't mean to sound cliche, but the truth is there are no cons. This was the classic win-win for everybody all around and everybody involved. So it's been overwhelmingly positive. Of course, we had high expectations, but they've really gone above and beyond to even exceed our highest of expectations. I am really personally very grateful for this opportunity. I look back sometimes and think to when I was a kid, right at the ropes and just hoping for that full-time position to be an NHRA top fuel dragster driver for my career. And Skag Power Equipment and everybody at Metalcraft of Mayville, Randy and Maria, they've blessed me with that opportunity. I know they've done the same for Daniel Wilkerson and Dave Richards, and they feel the same way. They echo the same sentiments that I do. So top to bottom, the whole team has been given the resources that we need to be successful. But it's not all about resources either. It's about culture. And their leadership style has really just been incredibly enjoyable. Sure, it's hard work. Sure, we all hold each other accountable, but that's how it should be. This is a business, and we all want to be successful. We all want to thrive both on and off the racetrack. And we want all of our Skag employees, all the dealers and distributors to feel a part of the team, because they are. So that culture has really resonated throughout the entire organization, top to bottom. And all the crew guys, Dustin Davis, myself, Mike, Tommy, we all just love it. We love every part of it, and we love going out there and representing all the great partners that we do and being a part of something that's so much bigger than ourselves.
Y'all have had some adverse conditions to deal with throughout, this first 3 quarters of the regular season. As a driver, how's that really kind of made you better throughout this season? Because, you always have to be ready for something that's unexpected with track temperatures, changing throughout sometimes the race day, throughout the weekend. How's that helped you as far as a driving standpoint?
So it's helped me a lot, actually, because the one thing you really can't put a price on is experience, right? That's so critical. So when you go to these different racetracks, you have a tendency to experience different things, not only because of the track surface, but because of, like you said, the conditions. And the best example I could think of is pedaling, right? I think that's a great example. And pedaling has a lot to do with feel, but it also has a lot to do with the conditions. So a great example of that is in Pomona earlier this year. And we finished the race in Arizona, but I think it was in the semifinals where we were racing Brittany Force, and we went out, and early in the run, we smoked the tires and got right back on it immediately, and it went down the racetrack. You go to a track where it's much hotter out in Norwalk on Sunday in the second round, and the sun's coming out, and instead of just getting immediately back on it, the racetrack's hot and sticky, having the discipline to actually wait when it smokes the tires early in the run and letting the car settle down and feathering the throttle to get it to smoothly go down the racetrack. So my point is that all of this is experience for me, and I'm trying to take it as such. I'm trying to learn each and every lap down the racetrack. So the different conditions require different things from the drivers, and the only way to actually learn is to be a part of it and be in that situation. And Mike and Tommy talk about it all the time. I'll be the first to admit I still have so much that I can improve on, and so much that I'm learning as a driver, both on and off the racetrack. There are things that I'm constantly working on that they are constantly helping me with. Pedaling is that thing, and I still have a long way to go, but it's just a great example of how those different conditions can really, require a driver to adapt and, try and find ways to get the race car down the track.
How hard is it for you to, in that moment, especially in eliminations, like you talked about, to have to wait to let the car settle down and then feather back into it, knowing you want to get to the finish line first? How hard is that to kind of allow yourself to slow down and let the process go through without trying to react too quick?
I'm not a patient person in my everyday life, as I'm sure you guys probably agree to. I'm sure you guys aren't either, but so yeah, it's a really difficult thing to do. It requires a lot of discipline, and most importantly, it requires a lot of experience. It's about feel of the race car. And, more times than not, our car goes down the racetrack. And our crew chiefs do a great job. Our team does a great job assembling the race car itself, so it goes down the racetrack. But occasionally, this is racing. Things like that are going to happen. And the tricky thing is, the funny thing is, you can't practice. The only way you can practice, especially pedaling, is actually on race day. So that experience is invaluable, but it's extremely, extremely difficult to have the discipline to actually wait when that happens. And I'll tell you the truth. There's been so many times before this where I did not wait, and I should have waited. And that was the only way I learned, and the only way I got a little bit better, and just trying to get a little bit better each time.
Justin, when we look at the car today, it is that cat's eye gold and skag everywhere, but you've always been good of having partners come on and stay on, or come on for just a race or two, and a lot of different people being introduced to NHRA drag racing. So who else is making this 2024 NHRA Mission Foods Championship Tour possible for you in aiming for your first championship in the NHRA?
Yeah, thank you for asking. There's been so many companies, and there are so many companies that continue to support our program, one of which is Phillips and Phillips Connect. And they've been an incredible company. I'm in a little bit of a unique position because I actually worked for them as a business development manager for about a year. So I understand a little bit more about the company and the way that they operate and the individuals that are there. And they have just an amazing team. And I couldn't be more grateful for their support throughout this whole process. Obviously, they were the primary sponsor for 2 years in a row, and we were able to put together something that was a win-win for everybody, including Phillips on the business side. And it's just been an incredible relationship. And, something about Phillips that I think important to mention is that they are actually hiring over 40 technicians nationwide across 15 different cities. And a lot of the people that either go to the YES program, that are involved in NHRA drag racing, or that attend NHRA drag racing events, fit into that demographic perfectly. They are an amazing company with an amazing culture that really knows how to treat their team members, treat their employees like family. And a lot of what's required of a technician is similar to what's required on working on a race car, which is repair, which is installation, which is creativity, which is actually getting out there and using your hands. So speaking of Phillips, that's something I definitely recommend. If anybody's interested in that, you got to go to NHRAlaunch.com, where they have the platform of all the job openings involved in the NHRA industry. So again, if you're interested in that, or you're interested in becoming a technician, go look at Phillips Connect. It's an amazing company to work for. And go to NHRAlaunch.com, where they have the posting up.
Well, we're going to get off a little bit off of the Nitro subject, and we're going to talk about your Jets. They had a very good draft. I thought they had a very good draft. Got a much needed tackle to protect Aaron Rodgers. This is the year that they have to put it together. Do you think that this year, with the additions through the draft, through free agency, that we see the team that we thought we'd see before Aaron went down?
Yeah, I definitely do. I bleed green and white, right? I've been a Jets fan for a long time since I'm a young kid, and they are really in win now mode. And look, on paper, let's be honest, they have a fantastic roster, the most complete team that they've had in many years. So at the end of the day, it's going to come down to health. So if they can stay healthy throughout the entirety of the year, I think Aaron Rodgers can still perform at a high level if he's surrounded by the right offensive line. And I've always been a firm believer in building teams inside out. I think that's how you win championships. That's how you win Super Bowls in football. So they heavily invested in the offensive line. They added 3 starters in free agency. They drafted another future starting left tackle. They added a receiver and other positions in the draft. So they're just surrounded with a young core of really talented people. And they added veterans on top of that are really good players. So, yeah, I think that they can definitely make a run. I'll preface that by saying every year I say the Jets are going to win the Super Bowl. They prove me wrong every year, but one of these times I'm going to be right. So I hope at the end of the year in February we can go back and find this clip and I'll be right. So, no, I'm hoping for the best. If they can stay healthy, they're super talented. They have a really good offensive line. They have a defensive line that attacks the opposing quarterback. I think they can be really, really good.
I agree with you. I think the division is it's there for the taking for them.
It certainly is. So now we just got to wait and see. Now we got to wait and see. That's the fun part. But the good news is, I love the fall because it's football season, and it stinks when it's not football season. But the great news is we have racing throughout the entire time, and that is my favorite thing of anything. So at least we have that going.
Indeed.
Gentlemen, the only thing I'm counting on is Justin Ashley continuing to cut good lights. Nothing with the Jets.
I hope so. I'm trying, guys. It's so interesting though, because I got to try and say this the right way, but at this point in time, the reaction time is far more important than it ever was before. It just is, because the cars are separated by such small margins, and we talk about it all the time, but it matters. You guys mentioned it in the first round of Top Fuel in Norwalk. Guys and girls, right? Women, they're separated by such small margins. It is nuts. It's almost like watching pro stock out there. So it becomes that much more important. But there is a lot more, and this is something that I'm still learning. There's a lot more to a good driver than just reaction time. Yeah. It's about feel. It's about keeping the car straight. It's about understanding when to do things and when not to do things and being consistent. I still believe that anybody can cut an 020 at any time, but that's not what makes a good driver a good lever. What makes a good lever is the hardest thing to do, which is being able to do it consistently, almost, if not each and every time you are up there. And that's what makes a really good lever. So it's something that we all strive to be. It's something that is necessary, because if you're not, man, the sport is going to humble you, and you're going to be the first one leaving on Sunday.
The sport has definitely changed within Nitro. At one time, you could be 080, you could be 100, and you still had a shot of turning a win light on. If your reaction time light, if you will, is that late now, though, your win lights are going to be few and far between. You are certainly hoping that other cat in the other lane has a problem for you to catch up by the slimmest of margins. Justin, we look forward to continuing watching you this season as you aim towards that championship. You have got just about everything else accomplished out there. You're one of the top drivers in the sport. You've worked yourself that way, and we look forward to see the rest of your 2024 tour and you all fighting for that Mission Foods championship, the top taco, if you will.
You guys are the best. Thank you so much for all that you guys do to cover drag racing. And I know you mentioned that earlier. I think it was Drag Racing Mayhem that brought out the average reaction time. And I just want to say, it's people. I don't know who the man is behind the account. I don't know. That's like a mystery to me, right? But accounts like him, that individual, we appreciate what you guys do here on Power Hour, and individuals like him that cover the sport and are helping it get to where it needs to be. So we appreciate that. And also, guys, it was a really weird, tough week last week with, losing Roger Richards. That one really hit close to home. I know everybody at the Competition Plus family's known him for a long time. And then losing Lizzie Musey and then John Force ending in the hospital. It sounds like he's taking a turn for the better, which is wonderful. But just wanted to put all the good vibes out there, all the positive vibes, all the thoughts and prayers for John and his family and all those, looking for healing right now. So we're all praying for you guys. We're all thinking about you guys. Wishing everybody nothing but the best.
Hear, hear. Justin, thank you, man.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
You too.
Well, Dugenais, good to talk with Justin Ashley there. He is certainly, I think, the one to keep an eye out on. Doug Collette is doing great things in a title defense, and you certainly have greats out there like Tony Schumacher and a Steve Torrance, but another great one already so early in his career is Justin Ashley.
Yeah.
Said it last year. I think we all said it the year before. We're saying it this year. That championship is around the corner. They just have got to figure out that last little piece, and it's just about in place, I feel.
Yeah, me too. It's always impressed me from the first time I met this kid is how polished he is. Very business savvy. To say, finding out that he works in that department for Phillips Connect is not a surprise. Like I've told him many a times, you would be stupid not to represent him. I mean, he's just an ambassador for whatever he does. He does an excellent job. To be that young, to be that polished has always been amazing to me. And you're right. I believe that championship's just right around the corner. They've got all the pieces together. I think they're in the right spot right now. They've had those hot moments. They've had those hot times where they've had a lot of wins coming in to the playoffs, and I think this is good. Because now you can focus on kind of peaking during the playoffs, and they just need to avoid having 2 first-round losses in the playoffs, and they can get there. That's been the Achilles heel.
For sure. Well, we'll transition here in just a few moments, and we'll talk about Norwalk and drag racing in general, take some of your comments. Let me address Mr. Elon Warner's comment of me looking all villainous, and yes, I am a villain, but it has to do with the light. I can look like I'm at a campfire, too. That looks, quite hideous and monstrous and horrific. But he wants a tour of the Bat Cave here. It's just my little Santa Cruz Hyundai. Yeah. So being mobile, having a light, go one way. I mean, it's very dramatic. Look at that. It's like I have a lightsaber. All right. All of our brackets were busted because of Pro Stock. We'll talk about that in just a few moments. Roll that drag racing bracket bonanza commercial, and you be sure to play.
Drag racing fans, check out Drag Race Bracket Bonanza. It's the free, family-friendly fantasy bracket game. Now, after final qualifying at every national event, you can fill out your bracket for all the pro classes.
It's free, easy to click on your picks. If you need some help, just hit the randomizer button to fill in the blanks. It's for fun, stay engaged, and pick your winners today.
I just want to tell my sponsor right out of the gate, Drag Race Bracket Bonanza for the Not Bland Show, that we just added a new player today during the show. After playing the commercial, that commercial is just absolutely phenomenal, and it saves me a lot of work.
Yes, it is a good commercial, and Elon Warner has developed a great platform for people to be engaged in drag racing. It is certainly catching on. The fire, it's not a spark. It's not a wee little flame. It is bonfire growing to forest fire type levels that people are playing. We had Nikki mention she had that perfect bracket, I think, back in Gators or Pomona with Top Fuel. And nobody had a perfect bracket this weekend at Norwalk with Pro Stock. They said the stat. When was the last time that Greg Anderson and Erica Enders went out round one? I can't remember, but it was a long time ago. Who would have thought that Erica Enders and Greg Anderson would have went out round one? Well, nobody. And you can see those stats on Drag Racing Bracket Bonanza. Larry Morgan. So glad to see Mark and Amanda Beaver Motorsports over there, have some limelight time with Larry Morgan taking out Greg Anderson. And that's a program where Larry apparently is building and developing those engines. It's an independent type of work. Like if you love independence and you are like, man, Pro Stock's great, but I don't want to pull for Elite, I don't want to pull for KB Titan, then Beaver Motorsports and Larry Morgan behind the wheel, like, you need to buy every t-shirt, you need to buy the hats, you need to tattoo them on your arm, what that's who you need to be pulling for, and got the job done. And then Larry almost got it done in round two.
He almost did. I mean, first of all, to see Larry still around, like Larry was when was in the Castrol GTX Pro Stock when I was a kid. So it's wild to see him still out here, which to me still it means that if WJ really wanted to do it, he could still be out here doing it. Right?
Oh, for sure. Yes.
I just, I wish he was, but
Frank Iconia, he's out there.
Oh, yeah, he is out there. Another one.
Jim Yates is somewhere out there still, I believe, roaming around,
I think.
So
it's wild. But yeah, that bracket for Pro Stock was dead round one. And I think it was dead for most people round one.
Yes.
Greg, you had one job. Just one.
Wow. And it was interesting. Fernando Sr. on the mic took the opportunity with Joe Costello, and I'm sure it's on the national broadcast side of things, possibly. I don't know what makes national broadcast and not. At least it's NHRA.TV, I would imagine. But in the media room, he went the direction to address, hey, we're racing it here at Elite Motorsports.
He did.
He
did. He took a shot, and
he did.
He
put his boot down.
Yes, they do a good job of that, and they very well could, nosedive for, the 6-pack champ. They could nosedive for, the natural. But yeah, they do duke it out, and it was cool to see those boys do a job and get it done. And it makes it tough, man. It makes it tough in this whole bracket thing. Everything looked really, really good during qualifying, and then it's just like I think this is the biggest turn in Drag Race Bracket Bonanza in Pro Stock, and probably in all the classes that we've seen all season long.
Yes, it is. Norwalk will be a race that in time we'll notice that we were building up to it. And now we're coming down from it, looking for the next type of peak moment, if you will, because it is, in my opinion, one of the best races we've had thus far this year. When you look at qualifying, Kyle Wurtzel, Dave W. shared with me that this is the third time he's qualified. Third time, it is the 16th spot. He figures out a way to make it in that show, and outside of it is an individual like Josh Hart, and this moment is a catalyst where he announces the day that John Stewart, is now a part of the team along with Ron Douglas to move that RL Carriers Top Fuel Dragster forward, and emphatic in the press release to be a championship contender, not just win races, but to be a championship contender. So we might look at Norwalk later on at the end of the year if Josh Hart becomes that contender and say Norwalk had that impact and made that change in his direction. You've got someone like Jasmine Salinas. She gets a round one win, and what does that do for a young lady driver? Give some more confidence and be ready to go out there. And Rob Flynn figuring some things out. Yet that goes back all the way to Virginia with Julie Natus getting her license, and she does an 81 or 82 in licensing, earns her license, and Rob is like, man, that would have qualified you number one on Saturday. And Rob's like, I found something. Let's go with it. Yeah. So this pivotal week in NHRA drag racing across the board of who made it, who didn't, round wins here, round wins that did not happen. And you've got an individual like Antron Brown. He wins the race. He's ecstatic. Yet overhearing him in the media center, he's naming off the people that, like, you got to look out for this guy. You got to look out for that dude. You can't turn your head away from this racer. And they're all part-timers like a Zizzo, a Foley, a Wurtzel. People are coming to play. Whoever shows up right now, they're contenders.
Yep. It is a real wild place to be in. Again, folks talk about the back in the day, but man, this thing, it's stacked in every category. Like, it really is. There's no gimmies. There's no first round. Oh yeah, he's my Huckleberry. Nope. If you come up there and you think you just gonna go up there and just roll the helmets out and win, it's not going to happen. I agree with Nicole too. Josh Hart's top interview, all of knowing him all this time, I have never seen him like that ever. And I think it's one of these things, just like David Grubnick. I think they were trying to get ahead of the curve. They did whatever they had to do and sacrifice to try to get ahead of the curve so that they're not left behind. Sometimes you get down a rabbit hole a little bit and you get lost. And I don't think Ron Douglas has lost his mojo. I just think sometimes you get so far into something that you don't see the forest for the trees. And I think you don't. There's things that you just lose. And bringing in somebody like Stewie is a new set of eyes that can see things clearly because he's never seen it before, and kind of pick out, okay, this is where we're kind of going awry here, and kind of bring the ship back where it needs to be. I kind of liken Ron Douglas to where Jimmo was earlier in the season. Kind of lost his way a little bit. He was trying to find himself again, and he just needed that break. And he finally got that breakthrough, and now they're starting to just rattle things off. The car's running well. He's able to tune when the moment is big. He's able to provide a big tune-up for Clay to run a big number. So that's what I think it is.
I agree. I also want to express might be a brand new combo that should be highlighted, doing some work with a part-time guy. That's Doug Foley, Lance Larson, and Doug Cook. Wow. They got Doug running really well.
Oh yeah. That was nice. They ran some numbers that I was like, wow. Okay. Don't want to roll up there and slip up on first round with that guy. I think they will continue to be a problem. What we saw in Pro Stock could easily happen in Funny Car or Top Fuel. Easy. You can see big names go out in the first round quick. And again, you can see big names not making the show as well. If you get behind, it's over. I also want to highlight too, Gerda June and Travis Shoemake. They made some progress this weekend.
They did. His first sub 4 second run.
Yeah, they made some progress this weekend. And I don't think people realize how hard it is to have the very little runs that they're able to make. And it seems like she comes out, gives him a tune-up that makes it. I think that there were 2 or 3 other times that they could have legged it through. Maybe he felt something that he thought he felt, but I thought all the candles were lit at that moment. I thought he was on a run, and maybe he got out of it too soon. Again, I'm not in the car, and I'm also not the one holding the box seeing things, but I thought the run was pretty clean, and he let out of it. I think it was at the hero session on Friday night. I thought they could have gone complete, but he may have felt something in the car that didn't feel right, and he got out of it. Obviously, guy don't want to blow up a whole bunch of stuff and break parts when you don't have a plethora of parts. But I really felt like they made progress, and I think it's going to be real soon we start to see them make A to B passes. And I don't think it's not A to B passes to be in the 16th spot. I think they really can get in the top half, somewhere maybe even in 12 to 13 range as well. I think they do have that type of tune-up, just like everybody else out here, to get in the top half of the field.
Doing what is necessary for the program where it is in its process of maturation.
Yes.
No different for, I think, someone along those lines. Chris King comes out to another national event. They go a little further. They go a little quicker. They go a little faster. They step away from the event. They learn more. They're better prepared for the next time they roll out with at Howard's Cams, Competition Products, Fire Department Coffee, Funny Car with Chris King in it. And by the way, Chris King wearing a fire suit that looks like his bunker gear with a fire department is on point.
That was on point. I loved every minute of it. I also thought, the adverse things they had to deal with, Nitro Joe and team, I thought they did really well considering the circumstances, having to make the debut there with the conditions that they had to deal with, pretty darn good. And got to give Dave Richards and that team some credit. They're really starting to find the A to B. I believe they were 4 for 4 in qualifying, at making A to B passes. And I believe they went the quickest they went all weekend with a 4:06, I believe, in the first round. So they're finding their way.
Yes.
And again, another car that in the right conditions, and as they make progress, they're going to be in the 390s soon. So
I agree. They had a test session at Virginia Motorsports Park after the national event. It has paid dividends. Saw full passes for them there at the test session. And then you look at another funny car. It's the last several years, it has been extremely competitive, but that competition growing once again. Buddy Hull, Jim Dunn Racing, not even from what I recall making every qualifying attempt, but when they did go up to the line, it's now becoming A to B passes instead of stomping on that pedal and it shaking or smoking the tires, and Buddy's got to get out of it quickly. It's A to B. Yeah, it might be 415, but from 415 you can work to 40. From 40 you can work to 390. From 3, so on. Yep. So programs are continually at different levels of maturation. You look at something like the Proc Rocket with Austin Proc driving and his family tuning it, John Force Racing. That's the tip of the spear, if you will. And right along with it, tracking is something like a Jim Dunn Racing and their maturation of trying to get quicker, faster, and better with a new person behind the wheel. And Chris King, so they're in different levels, but the gap is closing. Funny Car before long is going to be very similar, I believe, to what we already are seeing in Top Fuel. Yeah. Because you've got a situation where you have a cap on development in certain areas. People are all starting to catch up on the same parts bank.
Yeah. What was that stood out to me on the big end of the spectrum with Austin Prock. And I'll say this: people don't think that his brother is just around and because of his name. Like, no, he knows exactly what he's doing, and I believe he makes calls on that race car. But what was very interesting, you only see it in the dragster, right? Austin Prock looked like he could have driven that funny car with his pinkies, like just one-handed, just like with that teacup hold. That's how smooth that car is running for a funny car. Now we're talking about a funny car driving like a dragster. I mean, he looked like he was doing very little steering in there. And I'll echo Lonnie. I said this earlier in the season. Caps and that Napa funny car, they were trying things to get themselves ready for the back half of the season. And you saw it come to life in Norwalk. They're going to be a thorn in someone's side come playoff time. And I think you're really going to see it come out here in the next 4 races on how well and what they were working on and how it has come together. They're going to be a problem.
Pro Stock Motorcycle, Gage Herrera. We'll move on. No.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It is absolutely amazing.
Is. And there ain't no sandbagging. I'm going to tell you what I think is going on here. So Vincent Hines is not going to sit here and wait to be caught. Okay? Everybody wants to know why Richard's bike isn't going the way that Gage's is. Well, those are 2 different sets of chassis. They're not the same. So they're having to work through that part of it to get his bike to react, because it's not the same chassis for those 2 bikes. With Gage in qualifying, I believe that Andrew is trying things to stay ahead of the curve. They know that Matt is coming. Now, I'm going to get to Matt, but they know Matt is coming. So they are trying to stay ahead of the curve. You don't wait to get caught before you start making moves to try to stay ahead, because if you do, you get caught and passed.
Yes.
So they know what they can do. They try some things, they see if it works, or they try to get some data on it, and they know that come race day, it doesn't matter where we qualify. We're going to be in the top half anyway, but we'll come out here and we'll go right back to the combination that we know that it's going to do, and we'll go A to B. As long as Gage doesn't go red, we win it. So they are trying to stay ahead of the curve. Now, Matt, look, I'm going to need you to do something. I need you to show up on race day. I don't want to hear nobody talking about what Matt doing in qualifying. That's cool. But I need to see qualifying Matt on race day. And I know that, hey, I'm not tuning these bikes, so I don't know how hard it is to come around and have a different set of conditions and extra water in the air, dealing with a natural aspirated engine. But that's where he's going to excel. It's cool that you can do this in qualifying, but now it's just a matter of the consistency and it translating to race day. That's been his difficult Achilles heel, because we know that he can keep up. We've seen it in qualifying. So I don't think they're that far off. And that's where Matt's got to find that extra, because we've seen all the other bikes. I mean, all the MSR bikes were balling this weekend. Look at Gianna on the bike going rounds and running very good numbers. So it's just a matter of a level of consistency. I think they're going to get there, though. But with Gage, they're trying stuff because they're trying to stay ahead of the curve. They know that MSR team is coming.
Congratulations to Antron Brown, winner in Top Fuel. Your winner in Mission Foods NHRA Funny Car was Bob Tasker III. Congratulations to Aaron Stanfield, your winner in the Factory Hot Rods of Pro Stock. And Dugenet, say it with me, we're not shocked. The winner in Pro Stock Motorcycle is Gage Herrera. Yes. Congratulations. I do want to highlight, feel free if you've got one that you would like to highlight, Dugenet. Jeff Veal picks up the win in Top Alcohol Dragster, his 3rd national event win of his career, his first since 2022, and his first away from, not at, Reading, Pennsylvania, Maple Grove Raceway. And thank you, Dave Wazlowski, for those stats, empowered by www.dragracereference.com.
Yeah, fantastic site. I wanted to go with John Hall. They've been on the verge these last couple of races, and he finally broke through, able to get to the second round, obviously get through to the semifinal against Gage. That's a heck of a feat for a team that been working really hard and really seemed like, as a whole, the whole umbrella seemed like they really took a step forward this weekend. So all the bikes are running well, but John Hall, yeah, that I really want to give a shout out to him to get that far, go through his teammates, get there, and at least try to throw one at Gage. Kudos to him.
Yes. Hey, also, just for the fun of it, want to say that John Hall, that bike, sharp-looking ride. There are some sharp-looking rides out there this weekend. I really liked Clay Milliken's scheme. It really looked good for some reason. Yes. I know they typically, here lately, they throw on Summit. He's associated with them when they get to Summit Motorsports Park, but it looked really good. I like that look. I also like what Chris King's running. That is such a good-looking funny car. That livery looks so good. We've heard that story of Jack Beckman's son designed it, and it's on Chris's car now. But again, his fire suit on point just makes so much sense. Firefighter in a fire suit that looks like turnout gear. That is so cool. And you also, just to Bill Bader Jr., the whole team there at Summit Motorsports Park, the place was on point. Yeah. It always is, but it was again. And tremendous job for getting all the qualifying in on Saturday. I remember some folks chiming in like, oh, no, this isn't good. We're going to lose qualifying. I'm like, hey, it's Norwalk. It happens. They know what to do. And they did it and had spectacular qualifying on Saturday for all the professional classes and even rounds of eliminations for those that were outside of the professional classes. And what a great event. So glad that I did attend. So glad I did cover that. I did cover, in particular, Holly EFI Factory X. That video is out on the Monday Morning Racer YouTube channel. You all can watch that now and expect to roll out in time Top Alcohol Dragster and Top Alcohol Funny Car.
Yeah. And that's a good segue, because I want to give a shout out to Sean Bellemere. This dude now has finally broken his tie with Tony Bartone.
The boss.
He has this 39th career win.
We can't tell on air what Tony Bartone told him and reminded him of some other wins. So,
yeah.
But yeah. Tony pulled me aside and shared with me exactly what he shared with Sean. We can't air it.
Oh, well, you know. Those stats provided by DragRaceReference.com.
Yes. Dave W. doing a lot of great work. And hey, Stan Seapost, that was cool too.
Yeah.
First national event round win since 1992.
That's a long time.
Wow.
That's a long time. Shoot, I was still in middle school the last time he won.
I think I was in kindergarten, if not preschool.
Wow. Hey, man, you dating me. Oh, man. I literally am the old guy in the room.
Hey, it was a great drag race there in Ohio at Summit Motorsports Park, America's racetrack for the NHRA Summit Racing Equipment Nationals.
It was. I'm looking forward to next week. To the next race. I don't think it's next week. It's in 2 weeks, isn't it? July
yes.
19th through the 20th. So 2 weeks. They'll be in Pacific Raceways at the Northwest Nationals, and we already know that track fast.
It is, and hey, true nighttime session. They're bringing in extra lights, and I think that is certainly going to bolster that Friday program. I was there last year, first time ever. Such a neat track. Wish I was going back out there again this year, but there's a schedule conflict. But Friday was one of the worst turnouts for a drag race on Friday I've ever seen. Nothing against Pacific Raceways. I don't know why, but it was one qualifying session. It was not in the evening. It was kind of late afternoon. The sun hadn't even set, really, and it was a terrible turnout. I don't, nothing against Pacific Raceways. The rest of the weekend was great. Great track, great facility. It is a neat place. You need to put it on your list and attend. If you like Epping out in the East, you need to go to Pacific Raceways and enjoy it. But I hope this true Friday night session really bolsters that program and it works for them out there. Such a picturesque setting, such a neat track. Get there. You've got to experience. I wish I was there.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have the candles lit. It's going to be fun. That's what people love nighttime sessions. I love nighttime sessions too, just for the header flames, and you get to see the different colors. It's just, that's going to be awesome, man. That's going to be awesome. I think it is the right move.
It is. Hey, do you want to take the time? I do know one local track that has got a program going on this weekend, kind of a 4th of July type celebration. Friday night, they've got some qualifying with Pro Mods and then eliminations on Saturday. Brainerd Motorsports Park. No, that's not the northern version. That's the southern version. The one in Georgia right below Chattanooga and the Tennessee state line. Yeah. That place, Ringgold, Georgia. They've got a Pro Mod shootout coming up with Outlaw Pro Mods. If you're out in the area, go support a local track. And if a national event is not in your area, go support your local track. I know when the NHRA is out there on the West Coast, Virginia Motorsports Park, they're going to be having their Night of Fire, some top field match racing, PDRA All-Star event, and many other things along with jet cars. There's so many programs that you all can catch. Do not wait for your national event. Go support your local track. Please do it.
Yeah, these local tracks are putting on some really awesome events, and they're definitely worth the price of admission.
Yes, for sure. I think everybody's got their price of admissions worth tonight, which is free, sir. So you can't complain. Thank you for watching. Hit the like button. Hit the share button. Dujanay, I need to get down the road, man. I'm still mobile.
Yeah, you got to get down the road. And to help you get down the road, we hope that you're using Peak.
I am. I told Brian Bolander, marketing director for Old World Industries with motorsports and everything. I was like, man, I had to buy some coolant, and I bought Peak.
If you want to take your vehicle's performance to new heights, you got to give it Peak. Like our original equipment technology, antifreeze, and coolant, our formulas match the vehicle manufacturer's technology requirements so that we have the perfect match for every vehicle. That's one reason why Peak is among the fastest growing brands of coolant in America. We work harder to earn the trust of people like you every day.